Okay, so let's go with hopefully the last part. Hopefully it's recording. Resource prices and utilization. And we're going to get a very poor look into how wages are determined. All right, so again, we talk about the natural resources, human effort, or labor, and then capital, all these things, entrepreneurship. How do you decide? So basically, what is the whole idea of entrepreneurship? How do we put together these different resources, the other three resources, in a way that is going to be most profitable, it's going to be most innovative, it's going to brings you most value added, all right? So, marginal benefit and cost decisions, right? Oops, let's put this. All right, so the marginal benefit of a resource depends on the marginal price, marginal product and price, right? How many more units can we sell and at what price? All right, so let's see. They talk about here, if you hire one new trainer, as a result, you will sell 5 more memberships at a price of $100 per membership. Thus, the marginal revenue product, right? Additional revenue generated by utilizing one more unit of variable resources, how much? Right? One more worker, $500 more in sales, right? So it should be $500 in this competitive market. Marginal benefit here of hiring one additional trainer is $500, right? Marginal revenue product, $500. You could afford to hire this trainer as long as the marginal cost or the marginal resource cost is how much? Just as long as it's equal to or below, right? If the marginal benefit is 500 or the marginal revenue product is 500, right? Then the marginal cost has to be at up to 500 or below. If the marginal cost is higher than that, you would not want to hire that person, right? Right, so the marginal benefit, $500 in marginal revenue product. All right, so the wage rate people can garner is a product of two variables, productivity and price. If either price or productivity of the worker increases, so does the marginal benefit. All right, we also have entrepreneur can afford to pay a marginal cost up to the level of the marginal benefit. Again, remember when we say marginal benefit, we're talking about marginal revenue product, right? And the marginal resource cost. All right. Which of the following statements is true? Talked about this before. When you have a situation where the productivity increases, right? Marginal revenue product goes up, demand and wage rates and the result of the labor all increase. Right? So again, we like increases in productivity. Now, nominal versus real wages. Let's play a little game here. Let's say I have a consulting company. I hired you guys all on. Starting wage, $100,000 a year. Happy? Most people here would be okay with that. Although I do have students from time to time make way more than that. So $100,000 a year. Next year, we do and I judge my business and whatnot and decided, hey, I'm going to give you $120,000 a year. $20,000 increase. How many people here are happy? Right? And of course, I have the master over here. Why is that not enough information? You would be happy? Yeah. Under all circumstances of the country you come from. Would 20% increase in wages always make you happy? Not when you live in Venezuela. Or if we were given a situation where our costs were going up, our prices of our products were going up, right? So this is where we hear the term inflation, right? It doesn't really matter what the size of your paycheck is. You've all heard like you have a grandpa or grandmother who goes, back in my day, I could buy it like for this much money. I'd buy a house for $1,000. It's true, right? How nice of a house, I don't know, right? Inflation. Prices increase over time on average, sometimes faster in some certain places, sometimes it's not as much, right? What you need to ask yourself is, okay, you guys had a 20% increase. How much did the price of what I buy goes up? If everything went up in cost 30% and I increase your wage by 20%, your capacity to buy stuff is actually less, right? So this is what we mean by nominal versus real wages. Nominal is on your paycheck. Real is what you can actually buy. Which one should you really care about? The real part, right? What can you buy in real terms? All right, so the nominal wage is the actual number of dollars received in exchange for one's labor, right? Real wage is a quantity of goods and services that can be bought, or another way that you've heard it told is purchasing power, one's nominal wage, right? So, what we do is we set kind of a basket of goods that the normal urban consumer buys, right? And how much of that basket can you buy from year to year to year? Right? So we try to normalize it through that. Your purchasing power is the value of monetary amount expressed in terms of the goods and services it can buy. Right?
So it's stuff like benefits from your company goes to the real wage.
Benefits?
If you're getting medical insurance, say free of charge, I mean, they're paying.
That would be okay. So that would be part of your total compensation, and say yes, that would be part of your realized wages and whatnot. But at the same time, the question, this is even better. What if, let's say your wages stay the same, and your benefits stay the same? All right. Well, your coverage, you don't pay for it, but the quality of your coverage goes down. Right? Now we're not going to cover dental. Now we're not going to cover this or that. So in real terms, what is actually your in purchasing power actually decreases, right? So that one's kind of a gray area. All right, so purchasing power is equal to what? And it is nominal wages divided by price. Right? And so this is what we have to do with, I have to deal with CPI all the time. And CPI, Consumer Price Index, basically we need to gauge how much we should pay for something based on the overall cost of that basket of goods and services, how much that's increased, will help to determine how much I should pay for something. So we usually take a look at that. Competitive labor markets and wages. All right, so, market demand for labor, we've already done this one before. We have the quantity of labor here, and you notice this though. This is where you would definitely want to do both the numerator and the denominator. Why? The quantity of change of the labor is changing by more than one. Notice that. L is not changing by one, L is changing by 1,000 apiece. Right? So the marginal product we have, the product price, the marginal revenue product, so on and so forth, right? So, if wages increase, are you willing to work more or less? What do you guys think? Well, typically when we had the previous book, I had this thing, I think I told you guys about it before, where they were talking about like unregistered, I hate to say the term illegal aliens, unregistered immigrants working here in the United States. They were the only ones working those sort of jobs in the dairy industry where they had to clean up a whole bunch of crap and literally crap and whatnot, and so to bring you to work in that sort of environment, how much would I have to pay you? Eventually, I could get to the point where I could get to a wage at some point that every single person in the room is willing to do it, right? But if I were to say at $9 an hour, how many people here would be willing to literally shovel shit? Nobody. All right? At $18 an hour, anybody? Raise your hands. Nobody still. All right? Usually I get at least one or two people, so you guys are, okay, dainty, it's okay. How about $27 an hour? No takers yet. You guys are really dainty. All right, cool. Okay, how about $36 an hour? Okay, we get one person, two people here, right? Literally willing to shovel shit. At a certain point, you notice that as the wage went up, there were more and more willing people. At least we went from 0 to 2. Eventually I can get, if I had, let's $200 an hour, probably everybody here would be willing to shovel shit, I assume, right? So at a certain wage, I can get more quantity, right? So this is, we're talking about here, the supply curve for the labor, right? Upward sloping supply curve, right? And here we have, let's say at a quantity of one, if say it's only $4 in this case, I'll only get one person willing to do the job. At $12, I could get 3 people. At $18, I can get 5 people or something like that, right? So we have a competitive labor market. Suppose the price of the product falls. What do we expect to see? This is remember, this is the resource market. Okay, this is the resource market. The price of the product falls, the output market. What do we expect to see? What does that affect? Price of the product at the output falls. How does that flow into? Think of the other chapter, the previous chapter to this. Right? Well, when the price of the product falls, the total revenue falls, right? The marginal revenue product falls. The demand for that labor falls as well. Right? So you see the drop in the demand for the resource, the labor, results in a wage adjustment. Right? We're going to see here that now the equilibrium, we're going to find we're going to hire 2 people, right, instead, and at a lower wage rate, $8. All right, competitive labor markets. The equilibrium wage and the quantity of labor are determined by what? Right, intersection of supply and demand for the labor, MRC, MRP, right? All right, so, and again, the other book does a better job of talking about this, but let's talk about unions. Group formed by merging all workers in a specific industry into a single bargaining group aims to increase wages and benefits, right? So basically like this, if there were the better book talks about the term monopsony. Monopsony is kind of like monopoly. Monopoly is a single seller. Monopsony is a single buyer in the market, right? And let's say that anyone here working or planning to work in the nursing industry? Nursing? No? The nurses, usually I get 1 or 2. Okay, so of your experience of the nurses that you know, where's the better place to work in general? Hospitals, yes. Would it be better job market for you here in the Columbus area? Or would you rather live in like in the middle, far Licking County where there's only like 1 hospital? Here, right? What you'll find is that when you have more buyers in the market, right, then your situation is going to be better when you're selling your product or your labor services to the market, right? Now, sometimes in this situation, sometimes, especially when we're talking about like large employers within a certain area, right, they have a lot of bargaining power, right? Monopoly, if I'm the only major employer within this area, I can dictate the rules. I can set a low wage, take it or leave it. If you don't want to work for this low wage, you don't have options. Or go move to a different city. I don't give a shit. That's how they feel, right? And so what's the whole idea of having a union? Well, instead of a situation where with one single major company that has so much power and you guys individually having a tiny amount of power, by you guys coming together in union, you can say, hey, you know what, you're being unfair to us. If you're being unfair to X, Y, and Z, then you're being unfair to all of us. Now the bargaining power starts to equalize. That's the whole idea behind a union, right? So theoretically, they'd be able to bargain as a group, having more bargaining power to increase wages and benefits. Now, of course, this book goes straight to the unions are bad. Part of it, there is a negative impact, but it's not necessarily bad as in terms of inception, I don't believe. All right, but let's say that they just add its most basic form. What do? They raise the wage. They say, as all the workers have banded together against me, the employer, and said, we want a wage like this. what's going to happen? Well, I have no choice but to accept that wage. Right? And theoretically, if they bargain and they said, you can't fire any of us, what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen is this, is that I'm still going to employ theoretically kind of the same number of people, right? But I'm definitely not going to hire anymore. Why? Because my cost is higher, at least at this unit, right, than my marginal revenue product, than my marginal benefit from hiring that person. So I'm very quickly going to say, hey, you know what? No more hiring at all. What is going to happen over time? Well, if I'm stuck with that marginal resource cost, where the marginal resource cost was 12 before, now it's 15, what's going to happen? I'm going to hire less people, or I'm going to just through attrition, let people fall off, and I'm going to have less people, right? So it increased my marginal resource costs, so it makes sense for me to reduce the total quantity of people being hired, theoretically. All right, which of the following is not an effect of an inclusive union wage rate set higher than the market equilibrium? Right. It's C. Theoretically, if you're already part of that union, you're happy you're part of that union, you have your benefits, protections, and whatnot, so you're better off. But they're saying all of these occur, A, B, and D all occur, right? And that's the end of that chapter. Terrible chapter. Apparently, I found out that there's a new edition of the book just coming out just now, so hopefully that one's a lot better than this original one. So.